Just a moment. I want to make sure that everything works.
And it's always the reaching around the buses that's kind of the most lighted.
Where are we going to stand?
Where is the like area? Is it here?
It's better if you. If it's okay for
so it's manual.
Pardon?
It's manual.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
So I think I'm going to walk today. But should I be
Okay.
sitting? Okay. All right. So good day, everyone. I'm really pleased and honored to be here. I was the extra speaker because I really wanted to come here, and then I got a chance, and I was thinking that I'm here. My name is Marjoriikka. I come from Helsinki. The first few slides that I'm going to show you are basically I'm trying to explain why I wanted to come here of all places, and then I'm going to show you a bit of work that I have been doing. So I'm a first year PhD student, but I have a background as a researcher for I don't know how many years, 10. And then as a third part, I'd like to have exactly this discussion and give some thoughts as to what I could be doing in the near future. But yes, I actually hope that this lecture will be interesting to you too. The reason that I'm showing it is that exactly that it shows something like where the people are, where the action is, where is communication centered, and how it is moving, and increasingly it's moving all around the globe, right? And the way I see it, that if this is just internet or communication, in the future when we are going to have an internet of things, it's supposedly, the network is going to be even larger, or there's going to be more points in the network. And then last weekend I went to, there is a science center or a museum for young people in Helsinki. And I went there with my godson. He wants to become and predict weather. So we went to see a film and about Earth in space. Okay, so you don't know the obvious, this 19-year-old guy. And when I was watching the film in the planetarium with him, I actually started to think that, yeah, what is happening there is that we will have the network of people and communication, but actually on top of that there's already a layer that's very thick. And that is weather, and then you will have clouds, and under this layer of human activity, there's also another layer, which is water. And this is because I have an interest in waves. I tend to see the world as signals, or this is the metaphor that I use most often. But then the waves might have, or might end up being, there's more of them, so then you have the network centralization, or there is less of them. And then what happens in weather is that you will have a storm, or in the water you might have a tsunami, and there might be different kinds of reasons. So this is the kind of a organic idea that I have with human communication modified online. And I think that I have found resonance with what is done with this work and with Francis Grimes. So this is the part that I usually don't show to anybody else. This is the official first slide. This is Helsinki in March, not in June. But this is basically the aftermath of a wave. right? We don't have tsunamis, but we have different kinds of elements on Earth. And while the weather is around the globe, or a network of communication is around the globe, my focus and my interest is more simple, and it is this: it is the pulse. Because I already told a few of you that I'm an electrical engineer by training, so I see signals. There are signals in here going, and then they are deciphered as bits 0 and 1. But I have also been trained as a social and economic historian, and you can see this kind of wave in history. So there are called crises and revolutions, and sometimes a little aftermath, and waves like Oswald Spengler has been writing. So this is the name of Oswald Spengler. So that is the famous, probably pop culture one. Or you might have in economics, you have Joseph Schumpeter. Yes. So he's saying that always you need to have a crisis. In Finland, for instance, with regards to ecology, there was a recently deceased academic ecology evolution, I think he was studying Gahansky. And what he's talking about is this kind of or what he was talking about is there are these kind of, on Earth, there are different kinds of ways that populations of organisms go through that. There's lots of diversity, and then it's diminished, and then lots of diversity is lost. But what are more close to me, because I have this engineering background and I do working in business, and I want to be a bit more specific in my PhD study, is this. The phase in the pulse that is interesting to me is what happens at the top. Okay, so we are reaching the top, and there is lots of things happening, and then something happens, and then you have the image that I showed you on Helsinki. And there's 3 sources that are economic in nature, because this is, of course, this kind of a phenomenon is of huge interest to marketers. So we'll have brands that are interesting to an audience, and they are not. So why is this happening, and how could this be remedied? The secondary code is by John Berger, and that is actually a little more, it's a very simple statement, but what he's saying is that the longer it takes you to reach the top, the longer it takes you to reach the bottom. So it's a purely temporal-like statement. If this took you a long time, then this is going to take you a long time. And his example is using popularity of baby names in the US. Then the third book, I think, is a seminal one by Albert Hirschman. And his book is about shifting environments, and lots of his work is about how there is this kind of a cyclicality in how populations are interested in participating politically as a group, and then they are kind of like turning into more solitary actions, and more interested and focusing on themselves, basically. So it's kind of a individuality versus group-mindedness. And what is interesting in that one is this kind of how there's first you have to have this to be able to have the second type of phenomena. So it's sort of there's something internal in this phenomena, because typically in marketing, how it is seen is like, first we have this chocolate bar, we have the Twix, and then people get fed up with Twix, and then there's a new chocolate bar that comes into the market, so people will turn into that. So it's kind of external effect, or that people grew bored with the previous one. But the Hirschman thesis, I think, the way I understand it, or have understood it, is that it's kind of a intrinsic property of the process that it goes a bit like this. This I think is basically what I just said, but if I want to study this empirically, so then I have to pick something very specific to do this the same kind of a simple and elegant drawing that graph like Jonah Berger did. So I would be focusing on online discussion, and in a discussion there will be frames. The frame is kind of a, how many of you are familiar with the term frame when it comes to discussion? Couple? Okay, good. So it's basically a device to limit the phenomena that we're talking about, that you will hardly ever be able to actually contain everything in the frame. So there are...
It's a kind of context, it's physical context,
yeah.
Social or cognitive context.
Yeah, so we are kind of set to talk about and experience one thing in this way, and then something happens, and then you start to think about it differently. For instance, for example, at one point in time, people might be thinking that it's totally acceptable and fine to have slaves, and then something happened, and the frame changed, and now it's not considered to be very civilized at all. Okay, so two things. I'm interested in the generic mechanism of the pulse over time, because these kind of pulses, there are several going on. It's like a meta frame for many different kinds of phenomena, and then also the exact moment of something starting to overflow. Two resources. The other one is an article by Michel Collin, who's a French. Michel, a sociologist who also developed this after network theory. And and this is a very nice article by an American sociologist, Paul DiMaggio, where he has basically stated that it's possible to study this kind of frame changing using massive data analysis and machine learning methods. And the method that he's using, or they are using, is a method developed by David Bly here, who has developed a method called latency allocation. I think I wrote it. David Bly. And then it's going to be So this is basically the question I have currently on the material and the background. The background. So the material and my context is been described here. I'm working in this group at the University of Helsinki that is called Data, Self and Society. My supervisor is Professor Mika Pankal. He's an economist with an interest in cycles, very experienced in consumer-centric studies. Then we have Minna Wittgenstein, who is an anthropologist. Krista Lagos is a computational linguist. Sari Ylipä-Holomatic, she's a sociologist. And then we're working at the Department of Social Sciences. And we have this project, or I get funded by this project, which is under Academy of Finland Digital Humanities Program and Mindscapes project. And basically what happened was that I was given this data. So that we in Finland we have a huge discussion forum that is every month visited by 50% of online things. 50% of online things visit the site monthly. And it's huge also in the sense that it's very long time frame. And the size of 70 million comments is we are updating it all the time. So I have somewhere there Unfortunately, it's in Finnish, but we have a kind of technical project document that is based on the data that we had last year in the spring, but by now it's already larger. I'm soon going to show you a sample, or actually show you the site, so you get an idea what it's like. And then I chose an application area because, like I said, this wave can be studied in, I assume that it can be studied in many different types of phenomena. So I'm going to focus, my first focus is on a selection of diets, because that is, when you select what you eat, you're a consumer, very concretely, but also you're primarily making the decision for today, for instance, for today. I mean, in the sense that it is the food that you eat, it will affect your health, but it might not affect it today. And that is why it's also a question of well-being in the long term. And the term of medical doctors is then to say that it is primordial healthcare. So it's kind of, it's not preventive even, but it's even, preventive is closer to illness. Primordial is then very far. Yeah, eating is primordial healthcare. So doctors could order you an apple today. Yeah. But why to study this kind of a diet discussion? I will have to give you a bit of an explanation why it's important. So Finland used to be a very poor country. We were actually the last Western European country that had famine a bit over 150 years ago, something like that. And you can guess what that means. In a sense, it's like my grandma. In a sense, Finland was very poor, even without the famine. So I will give you a personal example. My grandmother went to school with a reindeer, you know. So she was going with a sleigh. And then you can imagine a bit how her home was like. For instance, she didn't live in a tent, but it was on the countryside. And then my mother, she was born in a sauna, and they didn't have a toilet like built in the house, and they had very few possessions in the house. And in between these two people, there was a war, and Finns didn't have food. There was rationing going on. And then when I was born, so my mother, her parents had a horse, and when she went to school, she was using a bus that went to the village once a day, and then she used the other bus to come back. Okay, so a reindeer, and then a horse and a bus, and then my generation would have had a bicycle and a car and a bus, and we might walk, and all different kinds of opportunities to select from. And this change has happened very fast. And what this means for consumers is that my grandmother would have been a target of education. She would have been the one who was specifically told that here is an apple, and this is a banana, and this is a TV, and this is a radio. Whereas I am a consumer, and I have seen them used all my life. And I am the one who's actually making decision based on which one I like today or tomorrow, or what brand suits my identity, and all these kind of questions. Now, so this is the historical sense, and here I can mention that. The other of my supervisors is a economic historian who wrote about this. His thesis is about this. But in addition, that is also a well-researched topic in Finland. Here's the one fact again. Incidence of type 1 diabetes is largest in Finland. So it's a very topical question for the nation.
Type 1 or type 2?
So type 1 is genetic one. The type 2 is the one that you
It's
acquire.
acquired, yeah.
Yes.
So it's a type 1.
Yes, this is the genetic. Yeah. And that one gets treated also with diet. Also, I'm not sure if you have heard, but in the 1970s there was a very famous medical project going on in Finland, or public healthcare project, where with this consumer education style, they were actually able to change the way people ate. So there was lots of blood pressure and cardiovascular diseases. People were getting heart attacks. But then they turned it around with the help of doctors and government officials. And basically they were telling everyone that stop eating that much fat, no butter, no milk, or no full fat milk. And it's still a miracle story that is quoted by the World Health Organization. And there's not many such campaigns that have success ever after that. But that has also caused a backlash. The person who was running this project is still alive. And today what is happening is that he's attacked. And what he said about fat is being attacked because science is moving forward, and we recognize that sugar is also bad for your health, and we recognize that there are different types of fats. And all this information is now known to the consumers because things are also educated very well, and they not only know how to read, but they also know a bit about science very often. So they are aware of these developments. And they are discussing this between themselves, for instance, in the forum, and they are very much rebelling against the nutrition specialists who say that forget about the fats, forget about the full fat milk. And they are also defending their choices like this. I want to do this. This is a pleasure. It's not a thing for doctors to say. It's not a fuel that I need. I want to be eating fat. I want to be frying my steak in fat every day if I wish. It's my right as a consumer. It's one of your business. For instance, this is that one. So overall, there's all of these things are studied in Finland. So it's a nice background for me to know that there's lots of kind of things that I can use to limit my study of the wave, because it's already known, you know? So instead of trying to study a phenomena and then having to say that this could be so due to these 5 things that I couldn't control. I'm using this phenomena because it allows me to say that this is being studied and it's most likely like this, due to this, right? Yeah, so that's about the diet. Now, about the forum, I think I'm going to show you to you next. I tried to find you a page on the website. So this is how the discussion forum looks like. Okay, so this one is about shopping, and there's lots of advertisements there. You don't?
You show
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I put it in a long way. I'll show it like that. Okay, let's see how it goes. Yeah. So that is the forum itself. Lots of adverts, lots of topics. This one is about economy. This is about shopping because I chose it based on your work. And here is a translated version of this page. So you can see what kind of topics there are discussed under the subtopic of economy. Real estate, free markets, consumerism, loans, debt. Beware of this website. There's another website. People are asking what should I do with it, about ordering alcohol from the EU, UPS shipping. no, all different types of things. So then so what kind of data this and what kind of this discussion this forum ends up being is that here's a sample. There's basically somebody saying that 100 stupid people are going to read this note in a week. Okay, so that is the starting point. And there's 3 responses. 1, 2, 3. And you can see that these are quite short, but there's one that is a bit longer. And then the discussion that you end up having in a site like this. So it's basically an open site. Everybody can come and write. It's a bit like a classified situation, that there is an advertisement or there is a question and a very specific one. But it's also about opinions, so it's like a journalist went to, city markets and went to ask people for their opinions, and it's just a sample. Also in Finland, it's a very popular phenomenon, this kind of send an SMS to this number and write your opinion, and that one gets written or printed in paper. So today I'm going to send a message and say I'm appalled that UK left EU, so we have this Brexit. And then it gets published. And then the next day there's somebody coming, somebody has responded to that and said that, yeah, but I think they did the right thing. So you can have this kind of a delayed discussion going on. And every spring there are messages like, I don't get these dog owners, they let their pets poo all over the place. And that one gets repeated every year. But also on this one, I'm again saying, because I have studied history, because it starts, this forum data starts from 2001. Very soon it's going to be history for historians. They're going to study the political movements. And what you end up having is that there's some metadata, there's some data, some very short descriptives, and then there's a timestamp stating that this is what happened on that day and at that time to the second. So there's many different kinds of aspects on this data, and that is why I'm kind of promoting Finnish social scientists to use this data. And we have different political scientists and social psychology scientists, media scientists who are interested in it. But then I also am interested in using this data myself, and that is the aspect that I'm also going to present to you with. So this is what the raw data looks like. How many of you are familiar with JSON format? That's good. So there it is. And then you know that you need to brine a little bit so then you can actually use it. And if it's in Finnish, we have to lemmatize it, so we condense the words into their root forms. And after that, you can do a file analysis. So here's a subset of the forum structure. So the whole Suomi.fit layer with duplicates removed, and with certain areas removed, had 53 or had in the official point in time. And there are relationships, and then there are about economy and health and science. And under health, you will have topics like this, and then under illnesses, you will have topics like this. And then for this study that I'm presenting you with, I took a sample from diabetes, or actually I took a sample of sentences that have a word of diabetes in them, and then I ended up having 32,000 sentences. And now a couple of characteristics of this data, because I already mentioned it clearly that not everything can be done with the data, even if it's still at this level, it's quite big. But then the characteristics of the data come into play. So like I already said, only some of the writers are registered. So for instance, if you went to the 23,000 to the ideas or allergy discussion, 23,000 comments, only 10 of them are registered, so you're actually, you would have perhaps 2,000 comments that are really, roughly 2,000 comments that are written by people who have been registered. So if you want to build a network based on their activity, like who commented to whom, this is very popular in for instance, in political network studies. It could be a little tough, right? It's bad because some sciences are very fond of joining networks, like sociologists. Yes.
Question about, for instance, if you have on the topic of health, for instance, 3 million comments, for instance.
Yeah.
2.6
Yeah.
2.6 million comments. And then we recognize that out of these 2.6 million comments, only 20% are coming from registered users.
Yeah.
And we make sure.
Actually, the number is so that it's this and this and this and this, because those are the comments that don't go under any of the other. But yeah, the number is larger, but I'm sure that. Yeah.
You identify that 20% of X amount of comments are coming from registered users. But at the same time, you have 80% of responders that are not registered.
Yes.
So how can you then predict, or how can you integrate the information that they produce or maybe the direction that they give to a discussion based on one they may not be the part of the network.
Yeah, so I understand what you're saying, and I think it would be tough.
External information coming
Yeah.
from the internet system, how can that be integrated in your formulation that these forums are changing behavior? Is it from the members or is it from the forum?
I think you should not always assume that it's social networks. Social networks are very popular because network science is very popular.
Yes.
But there is also simply the text that express ideas.
Yes.
It doesn't matter who made them.
Yes.
There are waves in the ideas.
Yes, exactly, and yes, and this is the answer that this is a characteristic of the data, and I would exactly say that this kind of network analysis is probably hard to do with this data. Therefore, I'm not doing it. Somebody else can, but I wouldn't. I would rather be doing something else. So yeah, what is the other things that I could be doing with the data is that, okay, the text is very rich. It's very rich compared to Twitter because there is a chance for length. It's very rich in a sense that you can have actual discussions. It's not like a comment and then a comment and then a group of comments coming from angry people if there is a tie or whatever. But there is a discussion. And there's also discussions on various phenomena. So there is the political hate speech, and there is this kind of a brand. People are talking about Toyota Avensis, the car, and their experiences. And then there are people talking about how they miss a loved one who's never mentioned by name, but it's this kind of generic talk on emotions, for instance. And one of my colleagues is very interested in emotions. But then personally, what interests me most is this long history and time span. So like I mentioned, I have a background in history, and I see the world as waves because I'm an electrical engineer for other reasons too. And then my supervisor is interested in the cyclicality and evolution. So this is the long-hanging fruit for me. For somebody else, it could be this, but I'm interested in the time phase. Or the time aspect, and how things and dynamics unfold. Now the actual data. How many of you know what I mean when I say limit size? Okay, so then I will show you. Here's the topic and Finnish, and here's the lemmas. And Finnish is a notoriously difficult language, which means that you have to have very specific processes for lemmatization. Luckily, because Finnish language is so tough, it has been a good challenge for mathematical computational linguists. So I think it's pretty good. So you can see, if you compare, I'll show you just a few. There's the highlighted items are ones that are missed by the algorithm. There's a couple of others, but it's the performance is very good. So what I then did was I built a dictionary, and I was using Python GENSIM. And here are a couple of this was for my sample of diabetes. And here you can see a couple of words in the dictionary. So you have a doctor, you have lab research, retard, omega, transpalmitalate, that's a property of fat, I think, obesity, insulin, diabetes, and then all kinds of words. And this is just a word and the ID of the word. And then when you do the LDA topic modeling, you could choose how many topics you want to find. But this is just a toy example for me to write the code. So I just had 2. So the outcome is a result of several cycles. So we get the 2 topics. And here you can see the words that are related to each topic. And this whole process with these 32,000 lines took something like 3.5 minutes. So when I have a larger set, like a million of rows, it's probably going to take something like 3 hours. But I hope not 3 weeks, because that's also a possibility when you have really large data. Now, if we spend a short while with the words here, so like I said, the data has, all the sentences have the word diabetes, so that's why it's there in those topics. But if you look at it very quickly, what idea we get, what is the topic about? So what the topic modeling is doing is trying to move, to get to, basically it gets a huge amount of words. So it's like if I had a newspaper, and then I cut all the words that existed in the newspaper, and then I put them in the bag. And then I have another newspaper, and then I cut all the words and put them in the bag. And then I do this kind of a shuffling and trying to find out, based on the words in the bag, which newspapers are about sports and which newspapers are about politics. So this algorithm is trying to do this, try to do this for me, right? So basically what I've now been trying to do is to find what are the 2 types of newspapers that all the words are cutted out from. The first thing that I did with my colleague when we looked at this is like, okay, they are like, you may get type something, diabetes, and get ill, and the disease is caused by something else also, right? Something like this. You might get a diabetes with these causes, perhaps. And then this one is about treatment. My diabetes might be treatment from doctors and diabetes associations, and the diet helps, something like that. So, and this is the process that you do with the topic analysis. So basically, we concluded, after seeing this, that you get diabetes and it's caused by certain causes, and then you may treat the diabetes and you may get advice. So like,
how does it distinguish topics? Is it part of the algorithm that it
Yes.
specifies it?
yes,
It's kind of a clustering or
Yes.
principal components and all of this stuff.
yes, it's a kind of a clustering. Yes, exactly. And then you have to, what you give, you don't give any seed words, but you give the amount of topics that you expect to find. So I might have given 5, so then it would have been different. And that is the art that is not often discussed based on what do you select.
Yeah.
Yes. But you can like, it's this kind of a abductive or whatever. If you have a theory that you think that there should be 5, or if you are taking several, it's a tough thing. In my Exactly. Yeah, that's what you do. So the next step that you do after, you just look at this and it might be like this. And then what I did was I went I read a couple of sample sentences, and here they are translated. First worry, if my little sister has the number 1 type, so this is the genetic one, can it occur to me? Another sentence, it's inherited to a small extent. And then the second type, or the second topic, there is about Diabetes Association, and they are talking about a book that the Diabetes Association Chief Medical Officer is not agreeing with. But somebody is saying to go to the Diabetes Association forum. Why don't you go and ask directly from the treatment center? Then there is some critical talk. Diabetes treatments swallow billions. Then there are energy treatments that they're talking about. This can be investigated by medical methods. And there is somebody basically saying that the Finnish Diabetes Association is giving recommendations that is not very useful. Okay. Yes. So you get this. Perhaps you get this kind of an idea that there are 2 different kinds of discussions going on. So that we were correct based on what we saw on the previous slide, right? Now, the interesting thing is that there might be something else that you can read from this, and this is where the social science part should jump in. So it's not just about finding a topic. I mean, what do you do next? And you, based on what we know in advance, you could take this kind of a stance that in the first topic, they were more about medically sound discussion. So they were actually saying, they were talking about the genetic part of the diabetes, right? They were also talking about that you you may have a diabetes byproduct in form of neuropathies. There might be a chance that you should go to the diabetes nurse in your community. So it's like go for the official source, so you get a proper diagnosis. Right? So they're talking about this proper approach in a medical sense. But in the second topic, there are clearly elements that are exactly this kind of a adversary to the official medical theories or what is being proposed by official chief medical officers and public health care nutritionists. So in addition to just recognizing that you have a topic of falling ill with diabetes, and then you have a topic of treating diabetes, you could also say that it's a discussion about, there are 2 different topics about what one is correct according to doctors and something else that isn't. And these 2 might be connected. So the thoughts that you will have, then I think this is just a work in progress, is this is the phase where the theory comes in. If you remember that Finland was a poor nation some time ago, and then we had this consumer information or consumer education tradition, you might say that, yeah, the people just don't know. They are illiterate. They don't know what's good for them, and then you have to tell. And health literacy is a concept that defines that illiteracy as ability to understand and retain information to make proper health decisions. So basically what they're saying is that if only you knew, you would do the right thing, right? But, as we already discussed, the selection of diets is something that is not really that clearly a health decision, right? So you just eat food for pleasure. You eat it because today it gives you a good feeling, but in the long term, it might hit you in the head or in your blood veins. So another thing that could be in progress or at work is have selectivity, for instance, because you might define ignorance not only as this perhaps traditional way of thinking that people who are lesser and poor and they're not very literate, they don't know it yet. But ignorance is also something that is forgotten, which is natural. It happens to all of us. Oh, I forgot. I shouldn't be doing this. It could be something that you abandoned because you had a bad experience or your friend had a bad experience. Or you might have consciously defined something as unimportant to you. It's not really my business. It's not something that I should care about. For instance, you might know that smoking is bad, but you're consciously forgetting about it every time that you light a cigarette. So if you look at the discussions or the topics that we found through this lens, you might start thinking about the process, the way of the discussion. So do you have two different types of people talking there? So you have those people who want to follow the appropriate medical advice, and then they are having a fight with those people who don't, right? Because you have two different groups who have a dynamic, and that tension is driving the discussion forward. Or could it be mixed? So that same person might be talking in both ways, in different situations. And then you would have to read the discussion to actually learn if there's something like this going on. You can't just rely on the algorithm.
Because you don't have the user links, you can't see whether it's associated with a certain way of doing the.
Yes, that is true. The thing often in an individual discussion is that even if I'm not registered, I will start the discussion with just a tagline, I might say that I'm a midget, and then in the same discussion, I will most likely be using the same nickname, even though I'm not registered, and then I will discard it, and that is one way. But yes, you're right.
But that you need to manually extract.
Yes.
It saves no.
Yes, and that's when you have to go and read the text. You could, of course, in later phases, you could code in the data. If you find a person has the same nickname throughout, even though they are not registered, you could code that in the data. Yes. Yes. So actually, in this case, we might have something that is. It is an idea. We need to read more, and we need to find ignorance as a phenomena, for instance, or health literacy, because it's also possible that some people just don't know. Like the one commenter came and asked, if my little sister has type 1 diabetes, may I have it? So that person was a little very completely, and then they might get an answer. But in any case, the point of this thought was to put across the idea that it could be that this is an internal process. So I make a conscious selection, or it might just happen to me, and it's not always aided or caused by external events. Because very often, especially in an economic context, it's like something happens. You remember what I said. You want to eat the Twix, and then you get bored with Twix, and then another chocolate bar comes around, and then you, only because the other chocolate bar came around, you switch. But it could be an internal process of some kind. And then that would be something that I would be also interested to learn about and to put into a graph that could be presented with this empirical data. And then actually that process of how that unfolds, I think, is again something that this, or at least Francis has written lots about. So you actually have a group intelligence there that people are working on the solution together. So is this diet good for us? If we have type 1 diabetes, or if we have type 2 diabetes, so is it working? And in that sense, so the group intelligence, the way I understand it, is something that, for instance, birds get when they fly from this area in a group to another area in the world. So they are actually smarter when they do it together than if they just went by themselves. And that is, I think, possibly the part, or this, I think the term is stigmatism. For this, or the process of its unfolding.
Well, stigmatism is more specific in the sense that stigmatism is coordination via an external medium. You leave a place in an external medium which triggers somebody else's activity. Form is an example of that. But with birds that follow a certain, that's not really stigmatism.
Yeah. Yeah, but the group, the way I understood it, but yeah, I'm sure that you're more experienced with this, is that the group intelligence is what makes it possible, so that it's kind of forming, the group intelligence is emerging.
Well, stigmatism is one mechanism to release the collective intelligence. It's a very robust mechanism, but there is group intelligence possible without stigmatism. You don't need stigmatism to have group intelligence.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I like I said, I need to work on these thoughts, and that's actually leading me very nicely to the next slide, which I think is the last one. Conclusions. So this is a practical conclusion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write an article, so that I'm going to take more data from the health discussion forum, and I'm going to do much more careful LDA analysis, so that I will try out different amounts of topics that I might find, and read theory to come up with ideas, or to understand what kind of academic reference there is, what kind of topics there should be, or that I should expect to find. And then I need to go reading closely the text and to study the contents and how the discussion's evolving. So in a sense, it's a bit of a mixed method approach here. And what I then want to do is I actually want to take samples or slices of the forum. So one discussion, it could be around 2004, then second could be around 2007, and so on. And the reasoning for this is that because there is a diet, low carbohydrate diet. It clearly peaked in attention somewhere around 2008 or 2010. So I think it might be possible to find how people were, originally there were a couple of interested people and a couple of people who were able to answer the questions, and how the interest kind of arose, and then there were a couple of TV programs, and then there were a couple of books published, and then what happens is that people try it out, and then they come to the site, and then they say that, yeah, my diabetes vitals are through the roof. I don't think it's a good thing. I've seen examples of that. And when you got more of those, it's kind of like when trials or this content sets in or comes to prove that yeah, it might be good for some, but it's not good for me. And then what will happen after that? That would kind of be the overflow when you have the maximum interest or maximum activity around the topic. Sure.
You mentioned the longer it takes to grow up, the longer it takes to grow up.
Yes, that's stated by this Jonah Berger.
What is the basis of that? What was the variable that made the architect think that the longer it takes to grow something?
It was the baby frequency of baby names in the US. So you will have a fashionable baby name, and then it peaks, and then it goes down. And the longer that a name becomes popular, the longer it takes before it becomes extinct. And it was like this kind of a food for thought kind of a proof for the statements, I think. But it was interesting in the sense that it's exactly typical. It's thought that people are getting fed up with the name. But this is it's like I'm not getting fed up with a baby name because I only have 3 kids and I'm not going to name all of them with the same name.
The reason I'm asking for that is that in terms of baby names, there is no explicit amount of information shared. In terms of what you want to, or what you're looking for in terms of diets. Because in terms of diets, for instance, if you follow your carbohydrate diet, and it happens that you're diabetes as well, somehow you are at the realization that it's more dynamic in the sense that you can share that information with people and communicate with. Whereas in terms of baby names, they're actually real. I mean, you don't like the name, you don't need the name. You can see that. Well, what I want to say is that the intelligence that you want to share,
Yes.
it's not dynamic and it's not basically of the nature of intelligence. So the peak that it takes on that one
Yes.
is not necessarily the true for this one. Actually, in this event, you might actually go very quickly and also fall very quickly as well.
Yes. Yes. What I take from this is that the proof was baby names, and it's very. The reason I like it is because it's very elegant, and the image is very compelling, and it introduced something new to the discussion about how are people stopping.
But
Doing
we
something.
give other examples of this phenomenon.
On the time, no, I don't
Yeah.
think so.
So when you have like economic crash, it's not really good. So it's like you have this picture as well, right? And
Yes.
it's like feedback.
Yeah, and for instance, I think there is this concept or whatever, Gartner hype cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like so what is going on is exactly this. The hard part is that I think nobody has proven this empirically. And also, what they do, what Gartner does, is that they actually might delay so that there's a phenomenon that is here in 2001, and then there's a phenomenon that is here in 2002, and then it's here in 2006, and here in 2007. So this should actually show you, these, it's a short frame, and it's kind of deceiving, but yes.
But there is another mathematical model that might explain the equal the sigmoid curve, if you know. If you take the derivative of the sigmoid curve.
Is the
you get
Mexican hat?
This.
No, the Mexican hat, no? I think about Mexican hat.
No, but the derivative of the sigmoid curve is symmetric in the phase of going and then the phase of slowing down. So if you take the derivative, that means the speed at which people adopt a new idea, you will see like this. You will get it, the slower it takes to go up, the slower it will take to go down. So there you would get the same effect. If you look at the speed of adoption, but the problem with the baby names, there it's not the speed of adoption because it's the actual number of baby names.
Yes.
So it wouldn't explain it. Maybe you can.
It's not a dynamic variable. You know, baby names, you can count people numerically, complex, you will not get the segment.
The baby names can follow something like a single thing because there's a non-linear effect. The more babies have already that name, the more likely you will hear about somebody with that name, the more likely you say, ah, that's a nice name, maybe I could call my baby as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and then yes, so that would be the symmetrical curve, yeah. Yes, that would be the statement. But then what I would expect based on communication theory is that it's the certain part here is it's a croissant.
Poisson,
Yeah.
Poisson, yeah.
So you get a croissant, and then what is actually then interesting, that could be a topic for the next one. Next article is that what is the process of whatever.
Yeah, but the Poisson curve is not dynamic, it doesn't describe the process, it describes the distribution
Of people
around
arriving.
an average.
Yes.
But in this case, the peak of your baby name distribution is not an average.
Yeah, but the baby names is about the Professor Berger's argument. But what I would so that it was to illustrate that the point of overflow or the dropping from the top is interesting in marketing and for certain reasons.
I see two possible mechanisms for the wave breaking. The one, as you say, is novelty. People are interested in something is novel.
Yes.
Once it becomes common, it becomes less interesting. You see it especially with fashions. And
Yes.
baby names are for a large degree fashionable.
Yeah.
But the other one, as you said, maybe when there is some external people coming in, and then you get a phenomenon of competition.
Yes.
And I know of one study on a discussion forum that found something similar, where they saw that there were different topics that were competing, and whenever one topic was highly available, the other topic would be very low in frequency. And there you saw kind of waves, but then waves, successive waves, where, let's say, at one moment there will be a topic about diabetes, the official version, and then there will be a topic about diabetes, let's say, alternative versions, and those two will compete. Whenever there's lots of activity in the one, the other one will tend to die out. So that's competition that may also explain waves.
Yes, and and the competition is then actually what I would be interested in finding out. Yes, also then if you go to the need something, there was another on a cell level. If you have there are actions happening on a cell level, so then you would have a chemical nature, like a nutrient goes up. But because the nutrient goes up, there will be with a slight delay. There's going to be another chemical that starts coming closer, and then the wave that you're going to see.
So the one that suppresses the other with a delay, yeah.
Yes, and then there could be also a third. And then that is kind of, why is there a delay and why is this one coming? And then that is actually part of the process. So that would be like a pattern of the process that you find. It's not a pattern in this, it's not a pattern in here, but basically it's a property of the process. And this type of process, you might, or this kind of a pattern of the process, you might be able to find elsewhere also. So it's another level. And this is happening in biology.
Yeah, I think there are pretty general models of dynamics that, for example, happen in biology or physical control theory. I explain that. And I'm thinking about two very basic processes. The one is exponential growth. It means that once something gets started, it kind of reinforces itself. Exponential growth is positive feedback. Cannot run forever because otherwise it can infinitive. So what always happens is that you get a sigmoid curve. You have a maximum capacity, and then it starts stopping to grow. But stopping to grow is that it has reached the full population. If then you have moreover kind of a decay factor, like once it has reached a full population, let's say everybody has heard the message, people stop speaking about it, and then it will start decreasing. So a combination between an exponential growth and then a saturation followed by a decay because it's it's no longer necessary to talk about it, but
Yes.
Mark already explained some of the dynamics. And then the competition phenomenon, that is there is the scarcity sort of attention.
Yeah.
People cannot speak about everything at once. So if they're speaking about one topic and then another topic that
Yeah.
for whatever reason has more growth at that moment starts to absorb the attention of the people, the other one dies out.
Yeah. So these kind of this is the kind of information that I came here for actually. So you would say that these are the things that you know from the process level. I think in the social science kind of the temporality is not very often discussed. It's always a little. There's an issue with causality and consequences of actions. If you can say that because of that this happened. So, but I had a nice philosopher, with an article, Marjoriikka Ylisiurua, that I always refer to. He says that this is possible, and we can do this in social sciences too, because so if you start fighting with causality, that's really interesting. Yeah.
Actually, the knowledge of physicists moving into social science, so I'm trying to apply this knowledge to social science. Sometimes, usually a little bit too simplistically, but
Yes.
for these kind of phenomena, it might work. But you need to have a good theory. The problem is that physicists know a lot of mathematics, but they don't necessarily have a good understanding of the mechanism in social science. So they might look for phenomena, find some formula to apply to it, and then give a very unrealistic explanation. Wow.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that we would be able to meet in the middle, so that we would have that physicist and who would be open and let's work together, and then I could be, for instance, working with them because I have this engineering background, so I'm willing to talk with engineering terms or physics terms, which many social scientists are not. Good.
There's another concept that we actually find very interesting, concept of niche development in marketing. How you can basically find there are a lot of nonlinear dynamics involved in these kind of weights and patterns and hysteresis and boundary and stuff. Similar concept was developed in socio-technological domain. So how basically a particular type of technology finds its niche in the market, and how there is a regime of adopting that technology reaches the tipping point and stabilizes itself. So I think in some concepts of that I'd actually like to go again. It's very tricky to kind of impose a mathematical model on social sciences, because social science is very subjectivity.
Yes.
So you reduce this complexity of society into this waves and patterns.
The best is that if you would find a plausible hypothesis that fits in with things you know about social systems, it would suggest a particular dynamic, and then you could use your data to check whether the dynamic is really there.
Yeah.
And for example, so this one hypothesis, I won't try to find the reference because it's a relatively old paper where you have this analysis of discussion forums and where there was this kind of a competition phenomenon that whenever one topic would come up, the other one would die down. That's already one hypothesis.
Yes.
And then there should probably be some kind of a hypothesis with a novelty effect that attention gets saturated after a certain while, and then the novelty wears off, and there is a decay.
Yes, what I expect to happen is that now I do the topic modeling, and then I might recognize some kind of evolving of the phenomena or the discussion, and then I go and read the discussions, and then that is going to be a bit more qualitative, because that's how I will like I said, the material already is recognized to have some limitations. So it's possible that I might be able to find a competition that I don't find a novelty. It doesn't mean the novelty. An issue.
And then there's another one that says the most obvious one is the non-linear amplification of positive.
Yeah.
When there are 2 or 3 posts on a particular topic, they're more likely to be more because than if there is only one. So the more there are, the more are likely to follow just because the more things there are, the more reasons there are to comment on them.
Yeah, and then there's the content of the content is like people trying it out and then they notice that it doesn't do further values. Yeah, but yeah, so then you do the topic modeling, which is algorithmic, and then you go and do some reading, but then you get an idea what you want to find in there, and then you have to actually check if you can find it using these methods. And it appears to me that it's a bit of a...
but how are you planning to do the dynamics? If you have a topic method and you have a topic, can you then take the time or have to see how common that topic is over the monthly reviews?
Yes. So one of our group members, Crystal Rose, she's developed, she has this kind of a keyword method where you compare frequency of words, not concepts or topic, but words. But the diet has a name, so that's a substitute that I use. Yeah, that one I didn't mention. So you can study how the frequency of a word changes compared to others used during that time. And then there's a couple of nifty tricks with which you remove the 2 common words or the words that don't really fluctuate during the time frame. And that is how I found the kind of that the food analysis is based on what I say that the peak of the discussion is probably around 2008 and 2010, because you also have to take into account that the group, or the forum wasn't as popular. It wasn't evenly distributed. So it started in 2001, and there were only a couple of people going around, and then it exploded around 2005, which was an external event. So then you have lots more users after 2005. But despite those kind of fluctuations, this keyword method will find the most important words used in the service, not topics for words. So that is also one of the reasons why I chose this guy, because it has a very specific name that can be mixed with other words.
To me, it seems like your study, as you describe it, is structured as a inductive research. So you start with the description of the society, hunger and historically and so on. Then you introduce some toys you're playing with that, right? But like if it's to be coherent, the questions that you are asking, the data and the points should be coming from your historical analysis and like trying to understand the society and interplay with health, diet, history and so on. Like you want to find out something about that, right? And then you look at those ways, and your questions come from this historical and sociological understanding. Because if it's coming from the theory and deductive, right, then it's not necessarily this particular community and particular setting where your data will be structured in this way. And you're not starting with it.
No,
so,
I think you're targeting a very good point, because I have already mentioned a couple of times that I'm very strangely interdisciplinary. So the issue here is that we have this massive data. So let's say we have data analysis methods, and these are very much in development right now. Okay, so the physicists and others are working on them. It's still in development. Then we have the well-being and health and diets, and that is a field of its own. And then we have this evolution, or this how things unfold. And I'm trying to focus actually on this. So
for us also the most interesting one. That you need to find the hypothesis that will fit with the data, so that the data make it visible. So these are already some possible ways, but it's not sure that the data will be rich enough to really confirm.
But
these
exactly,
hypotheses.
my hypothesis comes from deductive thinking. And deductive thinking is like, you really want to find out, you really want to understand. So you have a question, you need to get for the answer. And it's like, and of course, like in finding the answers, then you iterate with several hypotheses, but they come from like what you see in the data, and you are driven by your wanting to understand.
Both approaches are potentially fruitful. Usually the theoretical approach, something from a hypothesis, is more likely to give you a good result than the inductive one. What usually happens nowadays is that people get data from the web, because it's easy to get data. They apply some of these machine learning data mining algorithms on them. These methods are made to produce some kind of a pattern, so some kind of a pattern comes out, and then you have no idea what it means.
Okay, that's why, because I went through this process in my PhD. I was starting inductive, okay, this is the phenomenon I'm researching, and I had empirical sample and so on. But then I realized it all into design. So it was really for me it was much more interesting this way. But unless you have like really something that you want to find out about this society, passionately, like you want to know what they are doing with the food, this diabetes. I think it may be like maybe when you are on to some theory, what you really completely and like follow the theory.
I get what you're saying. Like I said, this is one of the reasons that I came here. So for me, this is the place where I might get some ideas around this. And then about the diet and the well-being and health as a topic, it's an interesting one. And
you're also interested in
but sorry, what I meant to say is that in our research, the department, my boss is studying health and well-being. So not my supervisor, but my boss. So this is closer to home in a sense.
Another question is, is it possible for you to do whatever you do with large set of things, but in a more isolated way, and then combine them together? So you can create many of these pairs and dates in a diagram, and then somehow putting them together in that sense. So for example, some of the topics obviously that people are talking about are more related to the health domain, and they can be categorized. So you can clean your data here. Within the domain that you already have variables and here probably defined by other scientists. So you don't have to reinvent things or create new things. And then after organizing those data in discrete manner, and then you can combine them and do something more complex.
I'm not sure if I understood, but the first line there with the future steps is analyzing the topic. So what I was thinking that one of the things that I may do is, okay, now I have the diet, then I propose topics by people who are interested in this content stuff. So we might have environmental research, we can play on the catastrophic mining business of the government, so that is also a way of some kind. And there is interest towards a certain word that is a meaning. So there's lots of things, and then if I studied all those, so if I had like 10 different science, like content scientists, like health people, whatever, 10 people with 10 different topics, and then I help them in their articles. Then what I will actually end up having is perhaps 10 waves like this, and then I could be able to try to find something like this. Yes, so that is one option, yes. But I think it's like you said that, I think I'm in a stage where I need to still explore a little, because it's like I'm interested in this, and I'm interested in this, I'm interested in this. So I'm still trying to find how to combine them, because yeah, both contribute.
What we just hope to see is that there is really evolution in something specific of process capability needed. Every few years there are new breakthroughs in software that not really changes. Here you hope that people somehow become more knowledgeable about real world. That's difficult of course to see that data.
Yeah,
Find a kind of evolution. Over years.
yeah.
Then you could play the maximum style.
I
And then you probably solve very interesting question that I think you can maybe use in the marketplace. For instance, how long did it take for a person in ignorance? When you talk about ignorance, there are different types of ignorance. In ignorance, you might forget something.
Yeah.
Or you
decide.
so we decide we don't want to do it.
Yeah.
You make a healthy choice and what have you. But how, like, what are the patterns that allow, what is the underlying current, if you like, of these changes of level of ignorance? Because the more ignorant you become, the more vulnerable you become to this making bad choices. You become more biased, right?
Yeah.
So, for instance, I give you a marketplace example. Like, for instance, if I have a membership to the gym, and I give my information to them, I go to the gym, for instance, once a week. And then after 3 days, they send me an email and they remind me, oh, actually, now I'm noticed that you haven't been active recently. Is everything okay with you? Can we help you? I had an email seriously from the
Kind of a bit.
and I was thinking that, that's a good idea. For example,
It's not but a bit of story.
yeah,
It's
but
so full of
Probably depending how it's placed.
Yeah.
yeah, it was a beautiful domain. And they asked, okay, we would be very happy if you could help. So I think that maybe there is maybe studies like this can allow us to really manage our attention and our cognitive energy, which is very basically rare in this complex world. And something like this that can put so much like layers of information together can help us to understand our way of decision making, our biases and humans. And also getting to know ourselves better, hence improving the quality of life that we have. So I probably would phrase if I was conducting this research, if I may, I mean, there's just that maybe there is a pattern of ignorance, or the way that we handle our attention or cognitive energy has a direct relationship or correlation with our ability to actually identify the biases that we have during decision making, and also how ignorant we become.
It's a very good suggestion that it's difficult to formulate it clearly, but it's true that these kind of data in principle allow us to find patterns of attention and biases. And if you would find a good method to extract them, it would be very powerful. Not just in these data, but in any kind of
But
data.
psychology uses a lot, and for instance in presentations, how to become a TED speaker. You read the book and what they say, actually manage people's attention. That's what they teach you.
Before when we were there, we were discussing another application that was about emotions. I think it was a colleague of you who was interested in emotions. And in Finnish it's more difficult to do it. In English, for example, there's a very good list of words and what emotions are associated with what words. So by making simply an analysis on the level of the words, you can kind of guess the emotional tone of a message. And then you use, for example, to see which emotions tend to elicit which other emotions. Because I get to look at the dynamics of emotions. Like sadness might elicit compassion, and compassion might elicit, I don't know, thankfulness and so on. That would be extremely interesting.
Interaction with your body language, you can elicit many the wide range of emotions. But in the right hand, I can write the compassionate feeling that runs through the very negatively. So with text, it's very difficult to really identify exactly what is the range of emotion that is activated.
Of course, in text it's not as precise. The text is about that you have plenty of data, and if you look at sufficiently precise methods of analyzing emotions, I think it's quite possible because users techniques like ODA and LSA and so on, I think it must be quite possible. And if then you put that long enough data where you see that one emotion in the discussion tends to be followed, let's say 30% chance by this emotion, 10% chance by this emotion, 50% chance by this emotion,
Yes.
that would be extremely.
Yes, and this approach, I think, is what the communication linguists would be very able to use it if they're traditional. So let's say that here you have a message, and you're not quite sure if it's about love or in hate, so there's a probability. It might be about love, and it might be about hate, or it might be ironic, right? But based on the next comment, if the next comment is about love and hate, for instance, and then the probability here is, you might say that 0.2 and 0.3 and 0.5, and then you say 0.5 and 0.5, you might say that it's actually more probable that the combination is this or this. It's more likely that this one was about love instead of being ironic. If you have deduced that this sequence is more frequent in your data. So the sequence too is going to have a probability, and this is what linguists do.
Actually, these things are a lot of details and people expect. One of the problems with linguists, I have had the problem because I wrote an article in the was using a kind of a similar statistical methodology and typical lecture linguists. Yes, but you need to take into account all the subtleties of the structure and the style and the context.
Yeah.
That's true if you analyze single sentences.
Yes.
If you analyze thousands of sentences,
Yes.
the statistics are pretty clear. If somebody uses the word love and cuddle and care and baby, you know that they're speaking about love and not about hate.
Yeah.
You believe at one moment, and I hate that cat, but my lovely baby has made me forget about everything.
Yeah.
Neurolinguistic programming, they already use a lot of tests. Neuroimaging,
I'm familiar with the term.
But you know, for instance, what they do is that if you go to a neurolinguistic coaching, they start to complicate. You want to say that, okay, I want to change height. And you start to talk about that, and they make a note of what exactly you're saying. And they give it back to you. Like they feed back to you, that's exactly what you do. And in that way, you get basically a reflection, a mirror effect of what you say. And then you see, so you start to reflect. So, in a sense, it is pretty much accurate in terms of collecting the belief and the words that you actually use in order to basically program your action with the book. So the subjects in human behavior and psychology use these things for a lot.
Yeah, I think this has been really good technique. I want to repeat, she's the one working in the sentiment. I find it interesting, but
I suppose you have heard about the status sake of my former PhD student Johan Bowen, when he analyzed the Twitter data to predict the stock exchange. But in practice, it doesn't work that neatly, of course. Otherwise, he would be rich.
Yes.
He still isn't, as far as I know. But
Yeah.
That's the kind of a very first beginning of the sentiment analysis.
Yes.
This, for me, would be scientifically much more interesting if you could analyze. If you would, let's say, you would have a spectrum of 6 or 7 basic conversions, and then you can see which conversion follows which conversion.
Yeah. So I will explain a bit what Krista has said, and I also find it extremely interesting. One of the most recent things that I have seen from her is that you have a discussion thread, so comment. And she takes at the beginning only 2. It's easier. It's like either it's this or it's that or it's not. Instead of keep like this, right? So you have a discussion. Here is a thread, and then you have basically, let's say this is fear. Fear is easiest to find. I'm afraid of fear. And then let's say you have joy. And what you might have is something like this. So it's a cell, just an info cell. But in this comment you have fear, in this comment you have joy, in this comment you have fear, in this comment you have joy. And then the second is about the same, but it's a different discussion. Fear and joy. So this is what you end up drawing. It's just a way of presenting it. And then what we are talking, what we will have is later this August, September, something like that. We're going to have a seminar with system biologists, because this is exactly this kind of a pattern finding that system or bioinformatics have been doing for not decades, but for some time, to find SNPs. So they are like, they have really powerful tools and methods for pattern finding.
Would be the simple approach. Just a single problem, analyze the emotional tone, which either you select the most dominant emotion or you put it on different dimensions. Then the response to it, and the response to it, and the response to it, and then maybe make some kind of a markup process like, given that the emotion is first love, what is the most likely next one? Will it be love or hate or anger or fear? In this case, you can guess that it will be also love. And so.
You can also find a lot of group behavior in the pattern between a lot of persons. If a lot of people get, the more compliant you are, the more you are, and the more likely basically to follow your path, basically. And with the large set of data, actually you can have quite a lot of good insight about people's behavior and how they actually, what is the pattern, and what are the conditions that allow people to basically settle on a certain and accept it, know how to have this conflict. Why they make a decision, why they settle on that decision. It is not necessarily probably because of saturation of the discussion, but sometimes maybe people actually get tired of discussing.
Tiredness, it's not just about disappointment, tiredness is also.
Well, tiredness is kind of the opposite of novelty. Novelty attracts the attention, but when it's no longer novel, you get tired.
True, yes. And then you might get tired because you are disappointed. Or, I mean, like tired in a good way or in a
you've heard enough about it.
Yes.
Could it be phrased that you are looking for partners of evolution, evolution of concepts about life, evolution of human cognitive strategies to deal with concepts and select and find them. And then the evolution will be part of this human strategy of
sorry, could you repeat evolution?
Evolution. On one side you have evolution of concepts, like fashions and in general, whatever. And then evolution of human cognition, cognitive strategies, and decision-making strategies, and emotional responses.
Decision-making section is difficult to get on those ways. The concepts might be, but the topics are different concepts.
But it's like more like collective decision-making, and maybe.
Yeah, but it's difficult to extract a decision unless you can analyze manually whether you came to some kind of conclusion. But I think that in this kind of a system, you rarely come to a
But in their micro narratives, you have like their decision making and their cognitive processes. So like, I have tried this and didn't work because of that, or I was tired, or something like that. So you can when you have a structure of a story, individual story, you can search for the pattern of what made you change. You did something and you decided something.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think it's with this material, it's not like people are telling over a story. It's like they bump in and tell this one.
Okay, but they give the connection, like they were like condition action, right? They were in a state like something like that, and then attribute the change to some factor, right?
Yeah, you will. Yes, I think that is what you will find there. A fragment of somebody telling about it, but also other fragments. Yeah.
Actually, you can use some scenarios to one state of arguments with following this evolution of concept, and also link it to the concept of emergence.
Yes.
And see what are the subjects that trigger very basically dramatic changes in the context of discussions. And what are the subjects that actually shift the mood with the conversation, but they don't have enough power to change the topic. They just change the direction of conversation incrementally, but they don't have enough power to change and basically to keep it from another topic to another.
Yes.
So there is this article I found very, very interesting from David Chalmers. It's called Strong and Weak Emergence. So it talks a lot about strong and emergence.
Sorry, strong
and
Chalmers,
weak
that's
emergence.
Sorry,
Strong and
strong. Okay. Strong and what? Weak. Strong and weak.
weak, the opposite.
Strong and weak. Sorry.
and
I'm
it's,
tired.
and it's Chalmers with an S.
Chalmers. Oh yes, school.
Chalmers.
Yeah. Yes, and that is actually an interesting point that you make. That's actually what I think. So when I was talking about overflow, and that is what happens here at the top, I think that is what is most usually named in the word overflow in my discipline. And what is very even more limiting is that overflow is an excess of things. It's like I have too many choices, or I have too much things, I own too much stuff. But like you said, I think it's about the moment when something comes in. Michel Collin, okay, I looked him from the word, but Michel Collin, I think he defines it in a different way. It's not just about excess, it's over too much items. It is also about that there is a moment in time when there is a potential for things to turn on differently. And it's here, 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 but only at this point. Yes, exactly.
There is this philosopher also you mentioned.
Children.
The concept that he has the most popular is the creative destruction.
Yes, the crisis here at the bottom.
But the creative destruction is the result of incremental building of a lot of potential. Which is the point where there is basically a window of opportunity, if you want. to first of all understand what we can put a lot of basically be the landscape of discussion, and also estimate numerically actually the probability or the coefficients of basically the rate at which a certain topic can change, depending on the level of emotion that we can engage, and also the amount of audience that we can basically have. So
it's another nice hypothesis. I predict that if you measure the intensity of the emotion, the thing will have a higher intensity of the emotion because emotion is a kind of an activation. So the more people are activated by the discussion, the more likely they are to engage with, and therefore the higher and the longer the rate will be. So intensity of emotion might be another nice measure. Actually, you should read my paper on mathematics, because what I did in the mathematics paper is I list selection criteria, the criteria that make that the mean will spread. Novelty is there, nonlinear amplification is there, competition is there, but emotion is also there. So that's another thing that you could use to predict the height and the length of the wave. The more emotional it is, the longer it is and the higher it is.
Yes. I think that is sort of stated by the social physics in the sense that I think it's common knowledge that if there are lots of messages at the beginning, it's going to be higher because there's more interest. And yes, that could be because of emotions.
But it can also be because of non-linear. If you start with many, they elicit more. But that doesn't allow you to predict from the, let's say, first two or three. If you look at the emotional term of the first two or three, then you might be able to predict more sooner.
Yes, so that would help to be able to make a prediction with less data.
Also, the effect does not show itself immediately. You have, in one of the theories in creative construction is that you need enough pool of information for the interaction to actually happen. You cannot just have two comments and you start to calculate. Yeah, you need to have, and also you need a lot of basically frequency of and repetition of actually commenting.
That's a positive feedback. The positive feedback that's about the most basic of the dynamics you will certainly find it.
Yeah.
The more there is, the more there will be.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Information content may be another, it's also one of my criteria. Information density, there are measures for that.
Yes.
If people say like, I have diabetes and I don't feel particularly good about it, it's not very informative. If somebody said, my younger sister has diabetes and she got it in these circumstances, the doctor said that and that and that, it's more informative.
Yeah, yes, yes.
Yeah, in the mathematical criteria, there are the objective criteria like how much useful information it is, and the subjective criteria like how emotional is the learning. And if you combine the two, you can kind of predict it to explode.
Yeah, that is, yes, very interesting.
There's 10 PhD topics now for this.
Sorry?
There are 10 PhD topics for this.
Yeah.
You're really good at grades, so
Material. Yes.
There's a very interdisciplinary approach, so you've got the value for all.
Yeah, but I think it's wonderful. And at least how my mind works is that I Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm going to take photo of this.
Oh,
Thank you.
I suggest that as you want to say go for it.
Yes.
Yeah, but Marjoriikka doesn't seem to have gotten here at all.